What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Jay Barlow, for the Uncut Podcast. Thank you for joining me. This is the Throwback Thursday, Flashback Friday edition of this whole thing. Sorry for the mess up there. But today I have with me a special guest by the name of...
Terri.
Ooh, professional. I like it. Right, I like it.
I had my customer service voice on.
Right, pause on all of what I just did. So what we're doing is we're following the theme of Throwback Thursday and Flashback Friday. I haven't heard a podcast do this, so we're going to be the first to do it. I hope. For the first part of this, I want to discuss, because we've known each other for however many years now, like 7? We're about to be 7 this year. And we've had this conversation before about the list that I created for you. And I want to get right into that list. Well, not really mentioning the list, but I want to discuss relationship advice, because a lot of people give relationship advice, and we do that a lot on this podcast. Well, at least in this first season we have. I want to discuss, though, what's the worst relationship advice you've gotten? What's the worst advice you've gotten, considering the list, which I think would be on the good side?
I would personally say that the worst advice I've ever gotten is to listen to your heart.
Ooh.
Because hearts don't see red flags.
Mm-hmm.
And hearts don't think logically at all. Because, I mean, when you think about it, a girl gets cheated on, her friend goes, listen to your heart. And if our heart's stupid and says, oh, take him back, whatever, you take him back, he does it again, you just look dumb. You look dumb. It's your fault at this point. So, you just can't listen to your heart. You can if you want to, but you have to incorporate, your brain.
Okay.
And also, your eyes to see, the red flags and all the negative things that you literally have to look at.
I think that's actually spot on with kind of what I had in mind. Yeah, like you said, people will go with their heart with things too, but I think we lead with our hearts, and we just don't listen. Like, a lot of people, a lot of women have great intuition, and they choose not to follow it. So you might, and this kind of a part of me wants to get into the good guy, bad guy thing again. Because, again, you guys speak on it all the time. We have great intuition, all this and all that, but you guys' selection of men, a lot of times, is just, flat the fuck out awful. If we're being honest about it, right? You guys will go for the asshole, knowing he'll do whatever, but the good guy who won't put you guys through that, you guys will still, and this is no target towards you, of course, you aren't in this category, but...
I got a good guy, so I'm good.
Right, exactly. Shout out to... I don't want to... Do I say his name?
Yeah, shout out to Michael. You say his name.
Okay. What up, dog? Yeah, no, a lot of women... Well, and I don't understand. I kind of want you to speak about that. Why do women go with the option, or why do you think they go with the option of the bad guy before the good guy, knowing who's who? Do you think that's emotion built too, or do you think...
I think it's a mixture of what the media puts out of, oh, the bad boy, he's so intriguing, he's different, he has so many secrets you have to uncover. And on top of that, for some reason, a lot of women want to fix people.
Ooh.
I don't personally get wanting a super in-depth fixer-upper project, but
right.
Some women like to take on a project of fixing a guy because they think they can, and you can't. The guy has to want to be better on his own. You can't make someone evolve and grow. And that's an issue that a lot of women, I feel, face in their relationship with people.
Okay,
and that's why they choose the bad guy, because the bad guy, you have to fix the foundation, and they feel good when he's quote-unquote fixed.
Do y'all really, because you spoke about the emotions, so you guys will lead with your emotions sometimes, but it almost sounds like in this situation, you guys are going with your minds? You aren't going with your heart, because you know that the good guy is better for your heart, but it sounds like in this particular situation, you're saying, fuck what my heart feels, let me see mentally what I can do for this person, because mentally I feel confident enough that I can change this.
I mean, yes and no. I think it's mainly still the heart, because your mind, if you are have a, working mind, it should go, this is bad.
Right.
This is awful. this is gonna hurt you, but I feel like your heart, if it's like an open heart, it's like, oh, I can fix this person, I can make them see that they deserve to be loved the way that I can love them.
Do you think that that has anything to do with, because I'm very curious about this because it's like, so we were discussing bad relationship advice, but it's obviously already gotten into some depths so far that I'm very interested in. And my question now is, do you think that, because you said it can be a mixture of both, it can be your heart, but it also can be bad judgment, or you thinking it's your emotions and you're just making a bad decision or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
Do you think that any of this has anything to do with the time you put in with the person? Because I'm even currently still seeing situations where people, like good women, choose to go with somebody that's not really adding to their life, that's not really benefiting them. They they say they know their value and they've been in enough shitty relationships by this point to know better. Like, I really am kind of struggling to understand this. Can you be like...
Yeah.
And I ain't gonna say no names, but you know where I'm going with that.
Yeah, I feel like if you put, I mean, it all depends. If you put a decent amount of time in somebody, I feel like there's a fear of being alone and having to restart.
I get that.
But I also feel that if you've been in a ton of bad relationships, that is your comfort level. You're not used to being treated well. You're used to being treated like shit, and you've just gotten used to it where if someone's actually nice to you and they're genuinely kind, you kind of like mistrust them and you think that they have hidden agenda and hidden motives when they probably don't. So I feel like it's just stepping out of their comfort zone can be scary too.
Okay. And that's kind of what I wanted to get to. So it's really not by way of a person. I mean, let's be realistic. Like, the good guys a lot of times do finish last. And so a lot of us, where at one point we were good, we end up being the bad guy because of negative experiences. We spoke on this before in other episodes in the podcast, and I've ended up going down that road too, where it's like, again, early on, I stopped, going for the good guy bullshit because I could see how being a good guy gets you treated differently. And it's fucked up that it's so backwards, but that is the way of life, unfortunately. And so I'll see a lot of good women end up with these guys that don't try to help them maximize their potential, don't try to push them forward and help them grow. And, a lot of good women who have their head on straight somehow stay in these relationships, end up on there, and it's confusing to me. It doesn't make sense. And so it leads me to the next question of, how does someone move on? Because I know, like, everyone deals with their shit different. And,
yeah,
like, I feel like you would have some, because your bounce back, like, dog, like, I see you back. And like in 30 seconds, like, bounce back, my nigga.
That was a nightmare, but 30 seconds.
Oh, that was fucking... I don't know how to feel about that still.
Borderline psychotic.
Yes, no one cries for fucking 30 seconds, and it's like, oh, I'm good.
But me. So I feel like how to move on, you have to allow yourself to be sad, whether it's 30 seconds or a week. You have to allow yourself to feel how you feel. Mm-hmm. But on top of that, you have to stop contact with the person. Block them off your phone. Delete their number. Block them off Snapchat. Block them off Facebook. Block them off Instagram. Block them off every kind of social media where you can go back and look at their posts and see what they're doing. Also, delete the text thread that you guys had, because when you're in your sad feels, you don't want to have that option to go back and look at when things were good or decent, quote unquote. You have to do that. Clear everything off. And then on top of that, work on yourself. Make goals for yourself. Like, you want to finish school, you want to pick up a hobby, you want to work out, eat better, cook more, paint more. You have to just fill your time that you would spend with that person with something that is beneficial to your own growth.
Absolutely.
And you also can't worry about the other person, how they're doing. Don't reach out to their friends. Don't reach out to their family. They're all dead to you. Cut them out. It's over. Capiche. It's done.
So you're suggesting a disconnect. And I also want to, and it leads back to, of course, the initial question, the first question of what's a bad relationship advice. I think that brings me to the idea of when people tell you, it's like when because a lot of women have female friends that'll tell them certain things to do to get over a person, and I don't think it's healthy either because you're not addressing the problem at hand. It's like, oh, just go out, dress up, do all this other type of stuff, and it's like the advice of that they're trying to give might come from a good and genuine place, but the delivery is wrong because what you're telling someone is move on by trying to make like you're not. It's almost like you're not doing it for you, and I think that that's just as unhealthy as staying in a relationship that's already mentally bringing you down, or trying to force a relationship with someone that's not adding to your life, but drawing the energy out. And
yeah, I never understood the concept of to move on from someone you have to talk to somebody else. That's not good advice in my opinion.
what is something that you like?
At all.
What is something you would tell to a woman that feels like she's in a relationship or she's in a scenario where she's been with someone for however long and the relationship isn't progressing, it's not getting anywhere, or it's negative, it's whatever the case may be. Like, what would you tell someone in that situation?
I would just tell that person, whether it's a female or a male, because males can sometimes be in abusive relationships as well. Not like abusive, like only physically, but mentally and emotionally as well.
Absolutely.
That you have to focus on what's right for you
Mm-hmm.
and what works for you. And if this relationship isn't working for you and it's causing stress, anxiety, just mental anguish, you have to leave it. You have to make that step to end it.
I'm glad you said that because there's a lot of people that act like men don't go through shit either. And I'm one of those people that, like, I'm at a point now where I try to handle things a little bit differently. It's not to say that I can't be impulsive at times. I definitely am. I was impulsive last week and I had a reaction. But then you step back and people will tell you one thing, and I've realized that it's so different, the level of accountability for a man versus a woman. We're expected to do a lot more in relationships than we get credit for. Not only do we have to provide and protect, which is the basic part of being a man or whatever. I can't think of the word right now, but
Like the basic kind of function, I guess?
yes, the basic function. It's the nature of a man. Like, women are nurturers by nature. Like, it's in our nature to be naturally, like, we're supposed to be providers and protectors, but when it comes to relationships, not only are we supposed to do that, we aren't getting no breaks. You got to go and get that bread. You have to be there emotionally. You have to show up physically. If we're talking sex, like we have to do a lot more, and I don't feel like we get credit for it. And when something goes wrong, I feel like we have to apologize instead of the woman owning up and owning responsibility for her part. And that leads me to the question of, why is it hard for women to apologize? Because a lot of y'all fuck up, and it's on us to apologize. And I feel like it leads to finger pointing. I feel like to me, it's a lot of negatives behind a woman not apologizing. And I don't get the difficulty for you guys of accepting responsibility for your part, but we have to do so much to get it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I understand that. I have sometimes a bit of a hard time apologizing. My boyfriend at times, 'cause I don't like to be wrong for whatever reason. I know no one likes to be wrong.
Right. That's just
But
normal.
for some reason, I don't like admitting defeat. I'm getting better with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, on top of that, typically men have always apologized because there's the whole slogan of "happy life, happy wife." It's just programmed, I feel like, in a male's mind that he has to apologize for things, and it's programmed in a woman's mind that he's gonna apologize to me because I'm perfect and I did nothing wrong and my feelings are valid and my emotions are valid and yada yada yada.
Mm-hmm.
Which your emotions are valid, but if you're out here being a complete a-hole and it is the woman's fault, she does need to apologize for her behavior and not wait to hear an apology first before she goes to apologize.
And that's something that, like, pisses me off and bothers me, is the idea of, like, it's it's the fact that, again, like, we have a lot to do in relationships anyways. And so the notion of happy wife, happy life, but what about the man? The happier we are, maybe the happier you are. You see what I'm saying? If we're being honest, the wants that a man have are significantly different than the wants of a woman, right? So
Yeah.
it's so much simpler for you guys. And I'm not trying to be funny or sexist or anything like that. I'm just being from from the lens of the women I've dated, from outside experiences, and people talking to me about these things. It's weird how that notion is there of happy wife, happy life. It's I don't think you guys realize the value and importance of doing something as simple as accepting responsibility. Like when that happens for us, it's actually a shock, and I don't think that that's good. I don't think it's healthy. I don't think
Yeah.
that's how a relationship should be represented.
No.
And it's almost like the idea of also a man should keep his word, but a woman can promise something, and if she doesn't follow through on it, it's just supposed to be all good. You know what I mean? Like, and I get that there are double standards, and those are the things you're just gonna have to accept. But I don't feel like this is one of those things that can't be fixed or can't be understood.
Yeah, it can 100% be fixed if people just are willing to hold themselves accountable and be vulnerable enough to apologize and fix things. Like you said, if it's just a wife that's happy, that builds to a lot of resentment. And I feel like that's why a lot of relationships end,
Yeah,
because there's so much built up hatred for
absolutely.
the other person that isn't accepting responsibility, isn't really putting in effort, just trying to make herself happy or himself happy, because it can be either gender.
Oh, for sure. It
But
definitely happens on both sides.
yeah, that's why
We're
I feel
too
like
proud to say something, and you guys feel more like you guys feel entitled to feeling a certain way. So it's fucked up on both sides.
yeah, that's why I feel like relationships should be more of a partnership rather than a dictatorship. But in
Absolutely.
some cases, it's the latter.
Yes. And we're not speaking on relationships just in the sense that you're dating someone. This applies to your friends, whether they're the same sex or the opposite sex. Don't be so proud that you can't apologize to this person. What ends up happening is a lot of people will place expectations on others that are unrealistic, and you guys don't address that before going into relationships, right? So, and again, I'm speaking on relationships again, but this should be something that you practice in friendships, in whatever in life. Again, it's just being an adult. It's accepting responsibility for your part. And if you want your partner to do that, then, you need to be leading in that regard. It's like asking for something that you know that you are not deserving of or worthy. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's crazy how that works. And it leads me
Yeah.
to the next topic of absolute turnoffs before now. I mean, you're in a relationship now, but I'm curious about, because we're going with the Flashback Friday theme at this point, like, what are some of the previous things that you were absolutely not okay with that you might be okay with now? Like, what have you opened your mind to?
That's a good question. I'm going to actually really think about this. So you can answer it first, because I honestly...
Oh, shit.
You can answer it first. So, like, what are some things that you wouldn't deal with a few years ago that you'll deal with now? Not even deal with, but in a sense, tolerate or understand now.
If I feel like I have to tolerate something, then I'll remove you from my life. I'm at the point now, if something doesn't feel right to me, I'll remove it before because again, I can be impulsive. I'm a very emotional person. I have no problem saying that. And we all have insecurities and things like that. But for me, I have an issue, like, it's something about, again, like the apology thing. You not owning up for responsibility for your part. I definitely think there's an issue with both sexes as it pertains to hypocrisy. Like, don't say something and then don't follow through on it. For example, if we're having an issue, don't tell me that communication is here for you at this point in your life. When you realistically, when you get into some shit, that's not how you handle it, right?
Yeah.
So people will have to be realistic about the fact that there's nothing wrong with being an emotional person. There's nothing wrong with saying I'm sorry or addressing the issue. A lot of people are also afraid to initiate contact after having an issue. That's the one time that you should be hitting somebody up. You see what I'm saying? Like, in those moments, vulnerability is okay. And I think that's an absolute turnoff for me, is people who can't be vulnerable, or definitely, again, sticking with the idea of women not apologizing. There is a major difference between I felt this type of way then and blah, blah, blah. There's an entirely different, that is entirely different than saying I'm actually sorry for this. And you saying, I apologize for this, I'm sorry for this, you're choosing to address the issue, and how you go about it, I look at that too. You know what I mean? Like, these are things that are just no-goes for me. Those are absolute turn-offs. And I look at a lot of women, and this is a consistency. And I know that if I want to be in a relationship, most likely, again, I'm going to have to deal with these things. And that's kind of part of why. I mean, it's definitely not the main reason why. The main reason why is at this point in my life, I'm focused on me. I'm trying to build my brand. I'm trying to make something happen for myself. And to get to where I want to be, I realize that I have to sacrifice things. And that's another thing that leads me to another thing that I like is an absolute turn off. People who aren't willing to sacrifice, meaning if you see me working hard and putting out the effort, and I discussed this with Jessica on the last episode, it's like when women like you, but it's our responsibility to chase you, pursue you, all that. It needs to be reciprocity there. If I like you, if I'm pursuing you, and I'm not getting anything back, and I've had this happen before, I might be interested in the girl, and I might hit her up, and I'll give her a chance after chance. After a while, that shit gets old, and then you might be like, oh, why is the guy not doing to me anymore? Well, you had him on his fucking goose chase, and you were playing games. So when you see him with the next girl, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's...
Yeah, don't be upset.
It really just revolves around the immaturity that people choose not to address. We all call ourselves adults and grown-ups, but a lot of us are not handling our business like adults and grown-ups. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's understandable. But also, just to piggyback on communication, I feel like sometimes in a relationship there can be too much communication. Like, they're talking back and forth way too much, and then there's no empathy to actually, start to comprehend what's being said.
Absolutely.
Because you can communicate all day until you're blue in the face, but if there's no empathy or any basic understanding what's being said, nothing's going to be solved.
Exactly. There is a healthy way to communicate, and there's an unhealthy way. The healthy way is to put action behind your words, right? And part of the problem is we live in a world now where, and I'm not going to get into the politics and all that other type stuff, but just on all levels, there is a lack of accountability just across the board in where we live in now. And so because there has been no standard set for how to have a healthy relationship, and we don't have the best examples, because if we're being honest, looking at previous generations, they will call it love, but it's not love, it's tolerance. We don't have a healthy example. People will be married for 45 years and hate something about a person and never address it. It's unhealthy. It's insanity to me.
Yeah.
And these are, I don't even know if these are turnoffs. These are just things that are like I don't even know the word for it, But I've given.
Or if they address it, it's when they're already fighting, so the person that they're talking to already feels attacked in the first place, and then they're just layering on all of their faults, so nothing is changed. Exactly.
And another part of it is choosing when to address something. Don't let something linger on for a whole bunch of time. And there are a lot of selfish partners out there where they might put something off for the longest time. And one person might be ready to address it, but in a few months. And so you have to be understanding of that as well.
Yeah.
And I think this is something you should know before getting married or getting engaged. You know what I'm saying? Like, or really even before dating someone. A lot of us don't go through the proper channels to get advice or handle situations, because again, we don't know who to go to. A lot of us don't have the healthiest examples.
That is a fair point.
With that being said, I gave you some of mine. What are some of yours? These are the things that before, like now I deal with them differently. I address them differently because I'm at a different stage in my life. But what were some of the absolute turnoffs of things that you were just not okay with before that you can address? And those things I'm not okay with, but I do have solutions now to address them.
Yeah. So a big one for me was being vulnerable. I used to be a bit of a hard ass, never had emotion, just very stoic, because I was just so uncomfortable with dealing with feelings that I was feeling, so I just pushed them all aside. And the guys I dated before Michael kind of did the same thing. We didn't really dive in to learn about each other because we were, in a sense, surface level, but not surface level. But, meeting Michael and understanding his communication for everything, he's very in tune with his emotions. He lets it be known when he's upset, how to fix it, how to not have it happen again. And I've learned that that's the best way to be in a relationship, is to be emotional, you know, be vulnerable, talk about your feelings, like what upsets you, what motivates you.
Right.
And if you don't do that, then you're not really in a relationship, you're in a relationship, and you gotta get out of it or fix it.
That's clean.
Yeah.
That is fucking clean. So, what are things, okay, because we're talking about the communication aspect of it, and you know, we're discussing the problem, but let's discuss some of the solutions real quick, because there are healthy solutions. So what would you say to a person that is trying to get through some of these situations or address some of these problems? Like, oh, I feel some type of way about that apology, because I'll tell you now, like, if I get to talking about it with you again, and most likely if something happens, I will. Maybe not exactly right after we've just made up, but it will come back up eventually, because it does need to be discussed, especially if we're planning on moving forward and being cool again, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So what are some things that you would tell a person that, like, okay, this was the issue, right? Like, so say for example, like the apology thing, we'll stick with that, or I have an issue with this. What are some ways that you would approach or would recommend to approach that? You know what I mean?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Because let's be real, the honesty thing is, let's come up with something different, because a lot of us are not being honest.
Yeah, a lot of it I feel like is hearing the apology,
right,
and accepting the apology for what it is, and understanding who the apology is coming from. Because some people just do not know how to apologize.
That's very
There's
true.
always a I'm sorry, but, because they feel like they have to justify themselves still, and that's just how they were brought up. Some people do not understand an apology as I am sorry. Now, I am sorry for how you feel. I am sorry, but yada, yada, yada. It's just, I'm sorry, or I apologize.
Absolutely.
I feel like a part of that is to understand that person's background and maybe address it later. Don't address it right after they apologize, because sometimes that starts a whole other argument. But I feel like understanding who it's coming from is the best bet, because if you keep talking to a person about how they apologize to you, because they apologize kind of screwy, then maybe you just don't need to be super close with that person, because if they're okay with hurting you multiple times and not taking ownership of it, and your feelings are constantly hurt, is that really a relationship that you want to continue, whether it be family, friend, partner?
That is very true. And a lot of these issues, and I'm glad you said that, because a lot of these issues do stem, again, with family. It's unhealthy examples. And so what will happen is when people say, oh, I apologize, but it's like you said, you're trying to rationalize something. But again, that's learned behavior. Maybe you've done that with family members for so long that you bring that into relationships. And again, when you apologize like this, it's understandable. There's nothing wrong with that. The point of this all is growth. That's the theme of season 1 was about relationships and expectations. This season coming up is going to be about the growing pains, how to get through that, how to solve your problems, how to grow and make things better for yourself. Because again, at that point, you might not be able to apologize correctly, but there's no way a month, well, I can't put a timetable on how somebody grows, but there is certain, like, limitations to how long you allow something to go on, right?
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of people confuse love with tolerance, and there's just certain things I don't agree with, and I don't think people should do. But it's human nature to mess up, and so you do also have to be understanding with your partner, and instead of bashing them for it, you also have to learn to build them up. And a lot of men fail to do it, but it's also on both sides. So I will get into that a little bit later, but wrapping up this episode, I wanted to thank you real quick. I think this flashback, I think it reveals some of the problems that maybe used to happen in our lives. Now we handle them a little bit differently. And that's not to say that we might not get into something, you know, in a week or something like that. But again, it's taking the steps to grow from it. This is where I am now. You don't want to be that person a year from now or a couple months. You know what I'm saying? Like, what are you doing to progress? And that's going to be something I'll lead with. of the next episode. So real quick, I wanted to thank you for coming on, or calling in rather. This is pretty new for me, and I really enjoyed doing this. This was actually kind of insightful.
I did too. It was very insightful, and it's nice to hear the both perspectives on a relationship.
Absolutely. So, do you want to shout out your socials, anything like that? You want to tell people to follow you, where they can find you, so on and so forth?
I mean, if you want to find me on Instagram, it's just Terri Hoover.
All caps, no caps, none of that?
No caps, just lowercase.
Exactly. I said exactly like I... Okay, well, this is the Uncut, the Flashback Friday, Throwback Thursday edition. I really appreciate you coming on, answering these questions, and speaking on behalf of, some women out there, and really appreciate it. Thank you, for real.
Thanks for having me.
For sure. This is the Uncut Podcast. Thank you guys for joining. Love you so much. Stay tuned. There are more specials coming out. These are episodes, but they are not official episodes. So I'll keep you guys updated. I'll keep you alert. I'll still keep dropping content, but again, I'm in a period of expansion. I do want to release on other platforms coming up. So go to the Instagram page. The links are in the description to stay updated for now, okay? Love you guys. Peace.
Just chill and sit back, baby. Yeah. Hey, look. R.I.P. to Nando. If I find them motherfuckers, I'll be emptying my ammo. Did that type of shit that make you wanna dim the lights, blow a blunt and light a candle. I'm at a Puerto Rican beach with some Puerto Rican bitches sipping lean and Gucci sandals. I hit Vegas and blew $100K. Damn, man, mama told me not to